Howard Johnson's is such a friendly place to have good food.
For 50 years, people have been coming to A&W drive-ins for our...
Did you ever sit down at a restaurant, bite into your favorite dish and think, this place will be here forever? Well, guess what? Some of those beloved spots are now just a memory. What happened to the iconic orange-roofed Howard Johnson's or the barn-shaped Red Barn burger joints? Today, we're diving into 15 forgotten restaurants baby boomers adored. And wait until you hear about the chain that steamed its hot dogs in beer. Stick around. You might just rediscover your favorite dining memory. First up, we have Sambo's, a name that sparks nostalgia for some and controversy for others. Back in its heyday, Sambo's was a breakfast haven, famous for its pancakes and cheerful atmosphere. At its peak in the 1970s, there were over 1,100 locations across the country. But what made it so popular was also what led to its eventual downfall. The name and branding of Sambo's was inspired by a children's book from the early 20th century, featuring themes that became widely criticized for their racial insensitivity. As cultural awareness shifted in the late 20th century, so did public perception of the chain. Despite the backlash, Sambo's tried to adapt, rebranding some locations under different names. However, it was too little, too late. By the early 1980s, most Sambo's restaurants had closed, leaving behind just one original location in Santa Barbara, California, which eventually renamed itself. For baby boomers, though, Sambo's will always be remembered for its stacks of fluffy pancakes, friendly service, and those nostalgic weekend breakfasts with family. Coming in at number 2 is Henry's Hamburgers, a fast food chain that once rivaled McDonald's in popularity. Founded in the 1950s, Henry's quickly expanded across the Midwest and beyond, boasting over 200 locations at its peak in the 1960s. With its simple yet iconic slogan, "A Henry's is a meal in itself," the chain became a beloved stop for families and teens alike. But as the fast food industry grew more competitive, Henry's struggled to keep up with giants like McDonald's and Burger King, who had larger budgets and aggressive marketing strategies. By the 1970s, many Henry's locations had shuttered, leaving only a handful behind. Today, just one original Henry's Hamburgers remains, located in Benton Harbor, Michigan, a nostalgic relic of a bygone era. At number 3, we're taking a sweet trip down memory lane to Ferrell's Ice Cream Parlor, a place where every visit felt like a party. Founded in 1963, Ferrell's wasn't just a restaurant, it was an experience. From the moment you walked in, you were greeted by a lively, old-timey atmosphere with striped awnings, player pianos, and staff dressed in vintage uniforms. Ferrell's was famous for its over-the-top ice cream creations, like the iconic Zoo, a massive sundae served with sirens blaring and staff parading it to your table. For kids, birthdays at Ferrell's were legendary, with drums, singing, and a whole lot of fanfare. But as tastes changed and competition grew, Ferrell's struggled to stay afloat. By the late 1980s, most locations had closed, though a few attempts were made to revive the brand. Unfortunately, none captured the magic of the original parlors. Next on our list is a true icon, Howard Johnson's. Known for its signature orange roofs and 28 flavors of ice cream, this was the ultimate roadside stop for baby boomers traveling with their families. At its peak in the 1960s, Howard Johnson's was the largest restaurant chain in the U.S., with over 1,000 locations nationwide. But as fast food chains grew in popularity, Howard Johnson's began to struggle. By the 1980s, most locations had closed or been converted into other businesses. For many, Howard Johnson's wasn't just a restaurant. It was a place where road trips turned into cherished memories. And speaking of cherished memories, up next is a chain that brought fine dining to the suburbs and changed the way Americans enjoyed steak. Stick around to find out more. Coming in at number 5 is Steak and Ale. Founded in 1966 by Norman Brinker, Steak and Ale was a trailblazer in creating a cozy, upscale dining experience, complete with dim lighting, wood-paneled interiors, and even salad bars. Steak and Ale was best known for its juicy steaks, perfectly paired with baked potatoes and warm bread served right at your table. For many baby boomers, this was their introduction to a more sophisticated style of dining, all at prices families could afford. The chain's revolutionary concept inspired countless imitators, but by the 2000s, Steak and Ale began to lose its charm. Changing dining trends and increased competition led to its decline, and in 2008, the chain filed for bankruptcy, closing all its locations. At number 6, we're pulling into A&W Drive-Ins, a chain that defined car culture in America. Famous for its frosty mugs of root beer and classic drive-in service, A&W became a symbol of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. For many baby boomers, A&W wasn't just a place to grab a burger. It was a destination for summer nights, family outings, and cruising with friends. Founded in 1919, it was one of the first fast food chains in the US. But what really set them apart were their iconic drive-in locations. Customers could pull up in their cars, place an order with a car hop, and enjoy their meal right in their vehicle, a novelty at the time. Their root beer, made fresh on site, was the star of the menu, served in chilled glass mugs that became a signature of the brand. But as drive-ins began to fade in the 70s and 80s, many locations were replaced by sit-down or counter-service restaurants. While the chain still exists today, the nostalgic charm of the original drive-ins is hard to find. At number 7, we have Looms. Imagine this. You walk into a cozy little spot, order a hot dog, and instead of a grill, it's steamed in beer. That's the kind of quirky charm that made Looms unforgettable in the 60s and 70s. Founded in 1956 in Miami Beach, Looms quickly became a household name with over 400 locations across the US. Their beer-steamed hot dogs weren't just a gimmick, they were a sensation. Paired with frothy mugs of root beer and a side of nostalgia, Looms brought something truly different to the table. But Looms wasn't just about hot dogs. They served up comfort food classics, from burgers to fried clams, in a warm, welcoming atmosphere. And get this, in 1969, they made headlines by buying Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Talk about ambition. Unfortunately, the novelty couldn't keep up with changing tastes and fierce competition. By the early 80s, most Looms locations had closed their doors, leaving behind only memories of their beer-infused menu and bold moves. Up next, we have Burger Chef. Picture this. It's the 1960s and you're craving a fast, affordable meal. You pull up to Burger Chef where the burgers are hot, the milkshakes are thick, and the prices are unbeatable. Sounds familiar? That's because Burger Chef was one of McDonald's biggest competitors, and at one point, they were winning the race. Founded in 1954, Burger Chef quickly became a trailblazer in the fast food industry. They were one of the first to offer a complete meal bundle, burger, fries, and a drink for less than $1. But what really set them apart was their innovation. Burger Chef introduced the Works Bar, where customers could customize their burgers, way ahead of its time. But despite their early success, Burger Chef struggled to keep up with McDonald's marketing powerhouse. By the 1980s, most locations had been sold or converted, leaving behind only memories of their groundbreaking ideas. Imagine driving down the highway in the 1960s and spotting a giant red barn, not a farm, but a fast food restaurant. That was the Red Barn, a chain that stood out for its unique architecture and hearty meals. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the experience of eating somewhere unforgettable. Founded in 1961, the Red Barn was famous for its oversized burgers, crispy fried chicken, and fresh fish sandwiches. Their signature items like the Big Barney Burger and the Barnbuster kept customers coming back for more. And let's not forget the nostalgia of dining inside. The interiors were warm and rustic, with barn-themed decor that made families feel right at home. Plus, the Red Barn was one of the first chains to introduce a salad bar, revolutionary for its time. But like many great things, the Red Barn story didn't last forever. By the late 1970s, competition from larger fast food chains and challenges with franchising led to the closure of most locations. Today, only memories and a few retro ads remain of this barn-shaped icon. Next on the list, we're rolling back to Shakey's Pizza Parlor, a place where pizza nights were more than just about the food. Founded in 1954 by Sherwood Shakey Johnson, this was one of America's first pizza chains. Shakey's became famous for its pizza and mojo potatoes combo, a perfect pairing that kept families and friends coming back for more. And it wasn't just the food. Live music and community events made every visit an unforgettable experience. But as pizza chains like Pizza Hut and Domino's rose to dominance, Shakey's struggled to keep up. By the 1980s, many locations had closed, though the chain still survives in a smaller capacity today, especially overseas. Imagine stepping into a bustling restaurant, but instead of waiters, you're greeted by walls of tiny glass windows. Behind each one, freshly made meals just waiting for you to drop in a coin. This was the magic of Horn and Hardart Automat, the world's first fast food, decades before drive-thrus took over. Founded in 1902, Horn and Hardart brought the automat concept from Europe to America, and it quickly became a hit in cities like New York and Philadelphia. But by the 1970s, the rise of fast food chains like McDonald's and Burger King made the automat seem outdated. The last Horn and Hardart location closed in the early 1990s, but its legacy lives on as a pioneer of quick and convenient dining. Next, we have White Tower. Think of White Tower as the forgotten sibling of White Castle. Founded in 1926, this burger chain copied the look, feel, and even the menu of its more famous competitor. But what it lacked in originality, it made up for with charm and nostalgia. With its sleek white Art Deco buildings and 5-cent hamburgers, White Tower was a go-to spot for families and late-night diners in the 1930s through the 1960s. At its peak, the chain had over 230 locations across the U.S. But lawsuits from White Castle and changing dining trends spelled the end for White Tower. By the 1970s, most locations had disappeared, leaving behind just a few faded signs and cherished memories. Now, let's spice things up with Chi-Chi's, the chain that brought a taste of Mexican food to the suburbs. Founded in 1975, Chi-Chi's quickly became a favorite for its bold flavors, lively atmosphere, and signature fried ice cream. Their menu was packed with Tex-Mex favorites like chimichangas, enchiladas, and tacos. But let's be honest, it was the fried ice cream that stole the show, a crispy, creamy dessert that became their trademark. So, what happened? In the early 2000s, Chi-Chi's faced bankruptcy after struggling to compete with rising fast casual chains like Chipotle. The final blow came in 2003 when a tragic hepatitis outbreak linked to one location tarnished its reputation for good. Finally, we have GD Ritzy's, a chain that tried to bring a little retro charm to fast food. Founded in 1980, Ritzy's was all about the 1950s vibe, from its checkerboard floors to its old-school menu. It wasn't just a restaurant, it was a time machine. Their goal was to stand out in a fast food market by offering higher quality ingredients and a nostalgic atmosphere. For a while, it worked. Ritzy's expanded quickly, opening locations across the Midwest and Southeast. But the competition proved too much. By the early 1990s, most GD Ritzy's locations had closed, leaving just a handful of stores that continue to operate today, serving fans who never stopped craving their classic meals. And there you have it, nostalgic restaurants that shaped the dining experiences of baby boomers. Did you notice a trend? Most of these chains disappeared because of the rise of fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King. It goes to show just how powerful marketing and branding can be in the restaurant business. But while these places may be gone, the memories they created will always remain. From beer-steamed hot dogs at Looms to family pizza nights at Shakey's, these restaurants gave us more than meals. They gave us moments we'll never forget. So, which of these restaurants do you remember most? Or did we miss one of your favorites? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to keep the nostalgia alive.